Hello everyone and welcome back to SGTV. We hope everyone out there is staying safe and either back at work or back to learning, or whichever the case may be. And today we're joined by Alison from Apprentice 1-to-1. So Mark, it's very good to have you on the show and joining us today. It's good to hear from you. So can you give us a bit of a brief background about yourself and how you came to set up Apprentice 1-to-1?
Yeah, of course. Thanks very much for having me on. Anyway, I appreciate that. Primarily, I'm a small electrical contracting business. Been going since 2006, and since the lockdown happened and the furlough situation and then redundancies from that, I'd noticed a number of inquiries coming into my business from apprentices who'd lost their job placements, and I thought that this is maybe perhaps more widespread in the industry than we'd all like at the moment, and there wasn't really much happening to help or support apprentices and employers. So I thought it was something that would be needed just to help in the interim through this COVID pandemic, really. But as it's grown, it seems that other people believe this could be something that's needed more longer term anyway, and perhaps historically.
So what exactly is does Apprentice 1-to-1 do?
Well, at the minute, we're trying to link up apprentices with employers. Primarily, that's the aim. So apprentices will get in touch to say that they've lost their jobs. And this is happening all over the country. We get maybe 10 to 12 at the moment in touch every day. And it's just using a network of people who we've got registered on social media platforms such as LinkedIn and Instagram to join them up with employers who do have some work placements at the moment. And even if they can't employ them, just an opportunity to go and finish off portfolios, complete their NVQs and get qualified. Obviously, there's not a lot of recruitment going on at the moment, so it's hard to get everybody back in employment. But we can definitely give people a chance to finish their portfolios with site-based opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Have you had much success so far getting people either back into work or at least getting some experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot easier to start with. We've got about 70, I think, so far, who are back in new jobs, having lost them through the pandemic, where they lost the jobs. We've managed to get 70 back in employment. There's about maybe 10 to 15, I think, who've had practical support, just getting out on the tools and finishing off some portfolio work. It's not just young apprentices either. We've got some adult learners who are in the group who've reached out for help. They've been through like the short course training routes and they don't adequately experienced and qualified. So it's getting those guys an opportunity to go out and work with skilled and trained electricians and learn the ins and outs of what goes on site. Yeah.
So what do you get out of this? I mean, is it purely you just want to be helping people? It's
just kind of spiraled, to be honest. It's not really a set plan that I've laid out to go along doing this. It's just I initially wanted to help a few people. The idea was if I helped 5 or 10, then that's better than not doing anything. And as it's gone along, other people have become involved as well, and it's just kind of spiraled into what it seems to be growing into. And the idea is now just to try and help as many people as we can, even employers, with information about help they can get from the government, some training material so apprentices can go off and do that, and employers as well. We've got some people on the website who are offering some marketing advice. It's not just about joining people together, it's offering that support and information as well.
Yeah. What help is there for the employers? Because obviously you've mentioned about how a lot of it is aimed at apprentices and learners.
I mean, historically, you get the £1,000 grant for taking on an apprentice from the government who's aged up to 18. But recently, the Chancellor announced some new measures to help encourage people to take on apprentices. And from age 16 to 24, you can get another £2,000 at the moment for taking on an apprentice. Over 24s, it's £1,500, and that's in addition to the £1,000 that you could have before. There's still a few grey areas in that. We're not sure if an apprentice has already had the £1,000 acclaimed from the first employer and then been made redundant, if it can then be claimed again to re-employ them. Normally that wouldn't be the case, but we think under the current circumstances that might be made possible. We're still waiting on the actual application process for those grants to be revealed. It was supposed to be out on the 1st of August, but as yet it's not in the public domain, or you can't actually apply for it. We just know it's coming.
Yeah.
The workplace one as well. So if you take somebody who's actually on universal credit or benefits, you can have up to 25 hours of their weekly wages paid for in full by the government as well.
Do you think employers know this before they're getting involved with you? Do you think there's enough information being relayed to people out there?
No, I mean, since those announcements were made by the Chancellor, I don't think there's been an awful lot of publicity around it. Obviously, they seem pretty focused on the health implications from COVID, and rightly so. So I guess their attention is getting that message into the public rather than the support for jobs and employers taking on apprentices. I guess it's a difficult one for them. How do they tackle it best? It's not an easy place to be. But that what is there, and we've got a link on the website directing over to the government's announcement of those packages. It's quite a long document. There's loads of other things in there as well, but it's full of helpful information for employers.
Yeah, I suppose it is quite a difficult thing to balance, isn't it? You're either trying to encourage people to stay healthy and give information on that. At the same time, everyone wants to get the economy back and running and people back to work, and it's definitely a bit of a balance, that part.
It's really tough, and to try and encourage people to employ at the moment as well. It's not an easy sell, is it? Because businesses are on the brink of failing all over, it seems. So it's not a simple solution. But I mean, that support is there, and if you are looking to take apprentices on, there's never been a better time in terms of grants available in the history of employing apprentices. I don't think there's never been anything like this before, and it is only a short-term program. I think from August to January. It's not something that's going to run indefinitely. So if you are considering taking on apprentices, now is a good time to really look at that.
Definitely, yeah. You mentioned previously that you thought something like this should have been about even before all COVID. So why do you think that would be?
Yeah, I mean, historically in the trades in general, it seems to be we've got this mindset of agency work, and there's not so much drive to have apprentices anymore. I don't know exactly why that is, because it's a tried and tested system that works quite well. But, employers tend now not to want that commitment to taking somebody on for 4 or 5 years. And I don't think there's enough drive from industry itself to get people into apprentices, and looking into the careers sector as well, advice in schools. People tend to go more towards an academic route, if you like, than into a trade or an apprentice in anything, really. It's just something for me that's been neglected for quite a while. And that's the message we're getting from a lot of lecturers who are in the group, that that they've not had that investment in time or money for a long, long time, and there's not the employers there generally anyway. And a lot of us just aren't aware of this. It's kind of this COVID pandemic, if you like, that's highlighted it to us. Perhaps there's more we could have been doing for much longer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Where do you think your Apprentice 1-to-1 is going to go? How do you think you're going to try and project this even further to get a bigger reach?
I mean, that's the big thing at the moment. We're trying to reach employers desperately because we've got a big long list of apprentices, and it's just to try and grow a group of people who are responsible for it. At the moment, it seems to be a lot about me. I guess we need to look at maybe putting some trustees who are looking after this group rather than just myself, so it can grow further and bigger. Obviously, I'm limited in the time and resources I've got myself to put in it. I do have a day job, and it's starting to get to the stage where I've not got the time to get around everyone who is getting in touch. So I've got to be realistic with that. But ultimately, it's to just try and get that message out there that there is a group of people now who are willing to put that time and support there for others, and actually structuring it more sensibly for the future. That's something that we do need to tackle sooner rather than later, but there's no grand plan for that at present. So, we need to really focus on that, I guess.
Yeah. Have you got any good success stories that you could share with us? Because I'd imagine if someone can actually see that someone who might have been released from their apprenticeship or whatever, if they can see that this genuinely is helping, that's surely going to be a big perk for them and a big incentive to get in touch and mention this type of thing to more people.
Yeah, completely agree. And we've had a couple of the apprentices who have done posts on Instagram in particular about success with their new employers and thanking everyone who's given them some help and support in making that happen. So that has already taken place. But lots of them just seem to have gone off into the new jobs and not really made that engagement, which is a little bit frustrating, I guess. But, you can't make people do that. We are asking, and it's not just the apprentices either. We're asking people who've already gone through that process. And we're now qualified electricians to start telling their stories a bit through the Apprentice 1-to-1 website and social media accounts, just to give apprentices that inspiration, if you like, to keep trying and carry on. Because it would be very easy for them at the minute to think that everything's just stacked against them. I'm not ever going to get to finish this, and what's the point anyway kind of attitude. So I want people who are qualified electricians to give me their stories so we can put them all over our social media and the website to try and give a bit of inspiration to carry on with that path.
Yeah. Where can any people watching this get in contact with you?
We've got the Instagram account, which is Apprentice 1-to-1. There's also a LinkedIn group, which is Apprentice 1-to-1 as well. There's the website, which is apprentice1to1.co.uk. You can subscribe on there with your details. As soon as you do, we send out some email updates of requirements we've got from apprentices. Some of it's for job positions, some of it's actually consumable materials for things like notepads and talk drivers and all sorts of strange requests coming through, and that all gets sent out on the emails weekly to everyone who is subscribed. And again, with the employers, as new information comes out from government, new funding and advice that's available, we send that out as well as updating on the website.
Is there a time limit for students? That's one thing I wanted to ask. Obviously, the ones that are being released from their apprenticeships, is there a time limit between when they have to find a new apprenticeship before they're released from their college course or learning course?
Generally speaking, there was, yes. If you lost your employment, then you had to find a new one quickly to continue in your training. But they actually suspended that rule at the moment because obviously it's not realistic for people to be out job hunting under time pressure. So that's not currently an issue. As when that will come back into place, we don't know. No one's given that guidance as yet. But for the time being, if you have actually lost your job, then you're not under that pressure to find an immediate employer to continue with your training, which is good. And we've got a lot of the lecturers to thank for that because they're the ones who applied that pressure to get that resolved.
Does that apply to anyone at any stage of their course as well? So whether you're, just a few weeks into it or 3.5 years into it, it's the same?
Yes, I believe so. It's anybody who's in the NVQ apprentice system. If you've lost your employment at any stage, that's just paused for now. When they'll actually change or amend that is an unknown. But I mean, you would think it's going to carry on for at least a 6-month period based on the other measures they've got in place at the moment.
So let's look into the future a bit, and fingers crossed there won't be much mention of COVID in the next few months. I think everyone's sick of hearing about it, and everyone just wants to be getting on with their lives, and rightly so. So what do you think the next step going forward would be to get the industry back up and running, get people back into apprenticeships and learning? Obviously, you guys there at Apprentice 1-to-1 are helping, and there's some information from the government, but as you said, it's not really out there for everyone's knowledge, and there's not much support sort of from where it should be.
No, I mean, that's a big stumbling block in general. It's trying to get the message into employers that in normal terms, having an apprentice, if you're a small company or a large company, is both socially and financially beneficial. Obviously, you have the initial expense while you're taking apprentices into your business, but through the course of that training, there is payback for it as well to both the apprentice and the company employing them. So it's trying to promote that message that it's not a big cost burden to take apprentices on. There is a financial benefit as well. And then into people who are considering a career in trades, that there is an active, successful route to being a skilled and competent worker. We seem to have this thirst for short course operatives, this incessant training of 5 or 6 week domestic route courses. And I think it's kind of tarnishing the real skills that electricians need. It's not helping, and hopefully employers will see that they have a responsibility themselves, especially some of the main contractors who seem to recruit heavily from the agency sector, that if they make that investment in time and people, they'll get the payback from that as well, with a skilled and happy workforce in their own making and mould. It's just to try and promote that positive message, really.
That's the thing, as you say, it's getting them in their own mould, and that's a big benefit. If you've got someone in who's learned things in a completely different way to the way you need them, that can always be another stumbling block. Whereas if you've got someone who you've got from the start, you can train them and teach them to fit in with your company, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that, and that's exactly what the 1-to-1 group is trying to promote, that idea and message. Primarily towards smaller sole traders, if you like, because historically the mindset that lots of them seem to have is that it's just too expensive to employ an apprentice. But once you've helped that person become a skilled and qualified person, they can actually help you work much faster and make more money. It's not a financial roadblock, I don't think. It's just a mindset we need to help people work away from.
And in the nicest possible way, you can get them to do all the bits you don't want to do.
There is also that. I mean, you're giving the valuable experience and training opportunity, so why shouldn't they do a few extra runs to the van and back for you?
Yeah, and the shop, get the pasties in, and
Yeah, the loft work, all the stuff that's a bit messy and unpleasant.
obviously, us here at Scolmore Group, we don't condone the use of misusing apprentices in any kind.
No, Snap, I would never advocate that either.
Nice. Mark, I want to thank you for joining us today and giving us some valuable information, and we genuinely hope anyone out there who's watching has found this useful. We will put some links in the description for Apprentice 1-to-1, so if you want to get in contact, please do, or even if you know someone who it might be useful, please get in contact with Mark. So anyone watching out there, we hope you've enjoyed this. Please make sure you like, subscribe and hit the notification button to find more videos from us here at SGTV.